The roar of jet engines filled the sky as 13F sliced through the clouds, a sleek F-22 soaring above the endless horizon. For most, the cockpit was a place of strict routines and sharp focus, but today, something was different. She was only supposed to be a passenger, quietly observing the pilots as they executed their high-speed maneuvers, just another face in the flight deck, invisible among the seasoned aviators who had spent years mastering the skies. But the moment the pilots heard her call sign, everything changed. A subtle tension rippled through the cockpit, the kind that could turn an ordinary flight into a story no one would forget. Whispers turned into sharp glances, hands hovered over controls, and the air seemed to crackle with anticipation. Who was she, really? How could a single call sign shift the balance of power in a fighter jet designed for speed, stealth, and precision? As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the wings, the F-22 cut through the clouds faster than thought possible. Questions hung in the air, unanswered and heavy. Something was about to happen, something that would change the course of this flight forever. And in that cockpit, no one was prepared for what came next. She hadn't always been a passenger in 13F. Before this moment, she was just another pilot in training, someone who knew the theory and mechanics of flying but had never stepped into a real F-22 mission. Her call sign, whispered now with an unusual mix of respect and curiosity, wasn't just a name, it carried a reputation, one that made the veteran pilots glance at each other in disbelief. How could someone so quiet, so unassuming, command attention in the cockpit of the Air Force's most advanced fighter jet? The pilots exchanged subtle signals, their years of experience telling them something was off. Radar screens flickered, communication channels buzzed, and every maneuver suddenly felt sharper, heavier, more dangerous. She remained calm, her hands resting lightly on the edge of the console, eyes scanning instruments she didn't fully need to read. There was a confidence in her posture that didn't match her official role, a quiet authority that unsettled even the most seasoned flyers. Outside, the sky shifted from bright blue to streaks of orange and gray, clouds parting as if revealing a path meant only for her. Somewhere below, the Earth moved silently, unaware of the drama unfolding above. And as the F-22 banked sharply over the horizon, one question hung in the air: why had her call sign drawn such attention, and what was about to happen next in the skies over 13F? The cockpit was thick with unspoken questions. The lead pilot, call sign Falcon, couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary flight. Every flick of her hand, every glance at the instruments, seemed to carry meaning beyond what any passenger should have. Beside him, Maverick, the wingman, shifted uneasily, sensing the tension that had nothing to do with speed or altitude. Something about her call sign had unsettled even the most disciplined airmen, and they both knew it. Meanwhile, she watched them, a calm but deliberate presence, letting the hum of the engines and the rhythm of flight fill the silence. Her own mind raced with the details. No one else could see the intelligence she had been briefed on hours ago, the coordinates that had been burned into her memory, and the unknown forces she suspected were tracking them from above. This mission was never meant to include her, yet somehow she had ended up in the heart of it. A passenger with knowledge that could tip the balance. As the F-22 sliced through thin clouds at supersonic speed, the radar pinged faint blips on the edge of detection. Falcon tightened his grip on the controls, eyes darting between her and the instruments. The tension wasn't just about the aircraft, it was about trust, secrecy, and survival. And somewhere in the distance, unseen and relentless, the next challenge was closing in faster than any of them had anticipated. The sun dipped lower, turning the sky into a palette of deep oranges and purples, and the F-22 felt smaller against the vast expanse above. Inside the cockpit, every second stretched taut, as if the air itself carried the weight of what was coming. Falcon's eyes flicked to her again, searching for a clue, a hint of what she knew that they didn't. Maverick's hands hovered near the controls, tension coiling through his muscles, ready to react to threats that weren't yet visible. Call sign had already changed everything. It wasn't just a name. It was a signal, a key to something larger, something dangerous. And now the quiet hum of the jet carried a new rhythm, a pulse of urgency that none of them could ignore. Blips appeared on the radar, small but persistent, tracking their every move. And the realization hit that this flight had drawn attention they couldn't see. She leaned forward slightly, voice calm but firm, giving directions that sounded routine. Falcon felt a chill as he followed them. Every command, every adjustment, carried consequences they couldn't predict. Outside, the clouds thickened, hiding potential threats, while inside, the cockpit was a crucible of tension. One wrong move, one misread signal, could change everything. And as the F-22 banked sharply into a narrow corridor of sky, the moment of reckoning loomed just ahead, intense, unavoidable, and utterly suspenseful. Just as Falcon adjusted the F-22's trajectory to avoid an approaching storm front, the cockpit lights flickered, a subtle warning flashing across the control panel. The radar picked up multiple contacts, converging fast contacts that shouldn't have been there. Maverick's jaw tightened. "Falcon, this isn't normal," he muttered, eyes scanning the incoming blips. She spoke calmly, almost too calmly, giving coordinates that seemed precise beyond normal training. Falcon hesitated. Her voice carried authority, knowledge she couldn't question. But the questions themselves gnawed at him. How did she know this? Why was she so composed when every seasoned pilot in the Air Force would be alert, tense, and shouting in a situation like this? Then it happened. A sudden ping on the radar revealed a shadowing aircraft that wasn't on any flight schedule or military roster. It wasn't just a potential threat, it was intentional, and it had been following them all along. The realization struck the pilots like a punch. Someone had been monitoring their mission from the very start, and her call sign, the one that had already unsettled Falcon and Maverick, suddenly made sense. It wasn't just a name, it was a beacon, and now that beacon had drawn eyes they didn't want to see them. The F-22 banked sharply, engines screaming, as the sky seemed to tighten around them. The stakes had just gone higher, and every decision from this moment on could mean the difference between survival and catastrophe. Falcon's hands gripped the controls tighter than ever as the shadowing aircraft closed in, engines roaring like predators in the sky. Every second stretched into eternity. She leaned forward, her voice cutting through the tension, giving precise maneuvers that no ordinary passenger could have known. Maverick followed her instructions, heart racing, as the F-22 twisted, rolled, and surged through the clouds, narrowly, avoiding collisions and radar locks. Then it became clear. She wasn't just a passenger. Her call sign wasn't a name, it was a warning, a signal that she had trained for moments like this. With a swift command, she redirected Falcon toward a narrow corridor above the storm, using the clouds as cover. The shadowing aircraft attempted to follow, but her knowledge of aerial tactics turned the chase into a trap. Within moments, the threat vanished from their radar, neutralized without a single shot fired. Falcon exhaled slowly, disbelief and admiration mixing in his chest. How did you know all that?" he asked. She only smiled, a quiet, confident grin, as if the secrets she held were hers alone. But before relief could fully set in, another blip appeared on the radar, this one small, almost invisible. A new player had entered the sky, and her calm expression faltered for just a fraction of a second. The mission wasn't over. Not yet. The new blip hovered briefly on the radar, distant yet unmistakable, and for a moment, tension returned to the cockpit. But this time, Falcon and Maverick no longer felt powerless. They had witnessed her skills firsthand, seen how a single call sign could change the course of a mission. With a calm hand, she adjusted the flight path, signaling them to trust her instincts. Slowly, the blip disappeared, leaving only clear sky and the fading rumble of engines. As the F-22 leveled out, the trio shared a quiet moment, the adrenaline giving way to relief. Falcon finally allowed himself a smile. "I don't think I've ever flown with someone like you," he admitted. She shrugged, a mixture of humility and quiet pride in her eyes. The sky stretched endlessly before them, a reminder of the risks they faced and the skill it took to navigate them. Back on the ground, the story of 13F would grow into legend, a tale of an unexpected passenger whose call sign carried authority, knowledge, and courage. The mission had tested limits, revealed hidden strengths, and forged trust among pilots in ways nothing else could. And though the skies had calmed, the memory of that flight, the suspense, and the unknown challenges waiting beyond the horizon lingered. Some mysteries, it seemed, were meant to stay just out of reach, but the lessons, and the courage to face them, remained.